In this lesson, we'll be exploring how we can compare mixed and improper fractions. So if I have a list of 3 different fractions, so I have 2 1/4, I have 11/6, and I have 2/3. One of the things that we like to do with numbers is determine which one is larger or which one is the biggest. And so there are a few different ways that we can do this. This is going to follow your notes, so you can look at that as you go along. So the first way that we can do this is a number line. Now, when we're looking at number lines, I'm actually going to do it in the opposite order that your notes do, but we can do it 2 different ways. So the first way is by using 3 equal number lines. And what we're going to do is we're going to label them the same. So this is going to be 1, 2, and 3, 0 at the beginning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each of these number lines into the appropriate number of pieces. So for this one here, the first number line, I'm going to break each one of my whole number sections into 4 pieces. Now, if I want to label 2 1/4, I'm going to go 1, 2, and right here is where I'm going to end up at 2 1/4. For the second one, I'm going to break up into 6 pieces. Now, as you're doing this, you will notice that some of these are a lot harder than others to break up into. 6 is a tricky one. So I'm going to then count 11 notches and place that for 11/6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this spot here is going to be 11/6. And for the last one, I'm going to break up into thirds. And I need 1 2/3. So here is 2/3. Now, using this, I can work up and down and I can decide which one of these is the largest. So I can kind of put little lines so that we can see what it might look like on the other lines. And if I were to label these from smallest to largest, I would say that 2/3 is the smallest, then 11/6, then 2 1/4. Now, the second way that I can do a number line, so we'll call this way A, is by putting them all on one number line. This can be more challenging depending on what our denominators are, because sometimes it's a little bit easier to tell. Now, these ones are a little bit easier, I think, to be able to do it on one line. So I can label 2 1/4. So I have 1, 2 wholes, and then 1/4 would put me at about there. I have 2/3 is the next easy one to put on here. So I could say, okay, this here is 2/3. Now, 11/6 is a little bit more challenging, so you might want to have it as a mixed fraction, or because we've kind of cheated, we know that it is going to be here. Now, I could also cut up each of my pieces into pieces of 6, but that is also challenging. So you're going to get the same answer doing it this way. I find that this number line is a little bit more challenging just because you have lots of lines going on the same thing. The second way that we can do this is by using equivalent fractions. So last year in grade 5, we worked with equivalent fractions. So we have to think about this word equivalent. And if you see equi, There, it sounds like the word equal. So equivalent fractions are equal fractions. So in order to do this, what I need to do is I need all of these written, first of all, as improper fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 2 1/4 and turn it into an improper fraction. So I'm going to multiply and then add, just like we learned in the last lesson. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So this is going to be the same as 9 over 4. So we're going to use 9 over 4, 11 over 6, and 2/3. Now, in order to have an equivalent fraction, we need to have them all have the same denominator. So our denominator is the bottom number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write these vertically so that we can see how we work this. Now, my recommendation is to do this with your largest number first. So I like to start with the largest denominator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a number to multiply by, and I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom. So multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything, but multiplying by 2 does. So I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 2. 6 times 2 is 12, and 11 times 2 is 22. What I'm then going to look for is, can I multiply 4 to get 12 and 3 to get 12? Now, if you see that and you know right off the hop, yep, I can multiply those both to get 12, that's awesome. If not, what you can do is you can do this with each one. So I'm going to do this with 4, and I'm going to pretend I didn't know that 4 can be multiplied to 12. Or maybe I just didn't see it today because it's not the first thing on my brain. So I'm going to start by multiplying top and bottom by 2. And I'm going to get 9 times 2 is 18, and 4 times 2 is 8. Well, that is an equivalent fraction to 9 over 4, but it's not helping me compare to this number here. So I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to go with the next number. So times 3. So 9 times 3 is 27, and 4 times 3 is 12. Now I have the same denominator. So I can compare this number and this number quite easily when I have the same denominator. Now I could do this for this one as well, or if I'm thinking, I can guess right to 12 and I can say, okay, what do I need to multiply 3 by to get to 12? And if I know my multiplication facts, or if I use my multiplication chart, I know that 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. So I'm going to multiply my numerator, or my top number, by 4 as well. 2 times 4 is 8. So when I'm looking at this, I can now order my fractions by using this last line. So I have 27 over 12, 22 over 12, and 8 over 12. So I have written all 3 of my fractions with the same denominator, or in the same size of piece. So if all my pieces are the same, to determine which one is the biggest, I just need to know which one has the most pieces. And so if I was talking about pie, and I love pie, which amount of pie would I want the most? Well, I would want 27 pieces of pie if I could have it. And so that's going to be my biggest number. So 27 over 12 is the biggest one. But that is also the same as 2 1/4. My next biggest amount is 22 over 12. But that's the same as 11 over 6 was my starting fraction. And the smallest amount of pie is 8 over 12, which matches with the 2/3 that was given to me originally.